ages, people from every continent, culture, religion, climate believe that the power of healing can restore the ability and functions of a human body to its normal health and efficiency. They also believed that this strange power of healing could be invoked in each one of us. And if this power of healing is invoked in each of us, that would be the end of human suffering. What is healing? What are affirmations? What is hypnosis? What is past life regression? Today on this show, Heal Yourself, the power lies within you. We're going to unfold a whole lot of secrets just for you. And today we are privileged to introduce to you a very renowned doctor, Dr. Rick Levy, who is a clinical psychologist, a healer, a physiotherapist, a past life regressionist, and a beautiful author of a beautiful book called Miraculous Health. So today, we're going to walk up to Dr. Rick Levy and ask him to unfold all the secrets. So come with me. Good morning, Dr. Levy. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Good morning. Likewise.
Please.
Thank you.
Dr. Levy, you've been a pioneer in mind and body medicines for more than 35 years. What has really attracted you to this?
The need to heal people and eliminate the suffering has been a major motive for me because, well, it broke my heart, and also my guru told me to do it. You're going to listen to your guru.
Right. Dr. Levy, you often talk about you're a healer, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people have different definitions, different meanings when it comes to healing. What I really want to know is that how do you really define healing in your own words, and what does it really mean?
That's a very complicated question because you're right. There are so many different opinions on it. I'm kind of a simple fellow. I think that as long as we are separated from God, we are not whole.
Right.
When we come, and I believe it is the destiny of all of us to come into complete union with the divine. Coming into that full merging in God, that is healing.
Dr. Levy, you were talking about certain lessons we all need to, revise, or maybe certain methods, certain techniques which we need to follow. What exactly are those techniques when it comes to healing?
Okay. Let me break them down into 4 simple categories. There are a few more, but we can basically cover them. The first is scientific meditation.
Okay.
Not all meditation methods are equal. We're looking at the magnetic pull there, basically. When you go into a deep meditative state, you're talking about pulling the energy back up the nerves from the peripheral nervous system to the base of the spine, up the central nervous system, up through the chakras, up and out, and you go with it.
Right.
Now, if you're going to meditate, you better use a method that has good magnetic pull. And so there are scientific studies that are showing one method may be better than another.
Right.
One that I teach as a good general introduction is Buddha's meditation method, which is simply Om with the out-breath.
Okay.
And each time you drift off, you bring yourself back to Om with the out-breath. Second general category would fall into the area of clinical hypnosis.
Okay.
Where the person being hypnotized, they're the one in control. They are running the whole show. They remember everything. It is simply a state of focused attention, the searchlight of your mind, focusing it. You can use it for something external. I get people coming to me who are athletes, for example, to learn to improve their golf game or some other sport. Or internal, that you can use to heal body and mind. Now, these permissive methods are magnificent, and we almost need a new word. Maybe we shouldn't call it hypnosis, but that's the only word we have at this point. This is not dangerous, this is wonderful, and there are so many methods that we use then within hypnosis. We may take someone what's called hypnotic regression.
Right.
And take them back to earlier trauma or difficulties they've had in this life. or into past lives that we may be carrying over without even remembering that we're doing
Right.
it. You know, this can have a powerful effect on you and you didn't even know. There's direct suggestion where we're making positive suggestions to
Right.
people in hypnosis. There is hypnotic affirmation,
Right.
where we have all received negative messages about ourselves, or we have concluded negative things about ourselves over the years, and we keep running these in our subconscious minds and conscious minds, and they're harmful. We can reprogram them out of our mind
Right.
with a positive antidote, where we create an affirmation specific to the negative messages. If you got a message that you're stupid as you grew up, then the antidote includes something like, I am very smart.
Right.
And at
right.
first you say, well, that's not true. But actually, as you repeat it over time, it becomes true.
Right.
And you can change how well you function and function much more intelligently. There are so many different hypnotic methods that we use. And so people have to come to embrace hypnosis. One of the all-time best, that all modesty aside, I guess I'm the one who created this, Hypnotic Meditation. When people start meditating, I've had so many years of meditation, I know the problems that we all face with meditation, particularly the first year or two.
Right.
We are suffering from what is called monkey mind.
Yes.
You
yes.
know, you sit down to meditate,
Right.
and you're expecting to go into peace, well-being. You want to come home to God, put all the problems of the world behind you.
And you want to do it in a jiffy. It's like, you don't want to spend a lot of time, because that's what I've noticed when you talk about meditation. A lot of people feel that meditation, it's very difficult, or, you have to sit still, you have to have a particular posture. And, people start getting a very negative aspect regarding the meditation. So,
Exactly.
like you just said, that you have a monkey mind. So, how would you want to elaborate on that statement? So, how would you want to elaborate on that statement?
Well, what I found was I created a particular hypnotic induction
Right.
that melted people into white light in their imagination. And I found that when I took people through that induction and then had them meditate,
Right.
that is what hypnotic meditation is. That body and mind were immediately calm and peaceful.
Right.
You didn't have monkey mind, you didn't have agitation of body, and the full benefits of meditation started kicking in immediately. I have followed a long process that is typical of the spiritual seeker.
Okay.
If you dedicate many hours a day to meditation and you're serious about it, it's going to take you 30 to 40 years, most likely, to come to states of nirvana, the blowing out
Yes.
of the candle, or samadhi.
Yes.
And I found that with hypnotic meditation, we could routinely bring people into Sabbakalpa Samadhi, Bhava Mukta,
Right.
in 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
Much shorter
Shorter.
time, and sometimes 3 months. I recently brought someone in 3 months. So I can't emphasize enough how we can speed the whole process of enlightenment down to such a short time frame where you no longer have to pick between a worldly life and the spiritual life. And perhaps you'll ask me about that a little more when we get through later with these other methods.
Yes.
The other categories then that need to be combined in a good protocol is essentially scientific pranayama.
Okay.
I found that in using the methods of pranayama to facilitate enlightenment as part of yoga, it dawned on me one day, all right, look, if we can move the energy, the prana, internally through the chakras in this process of evolution,
Right.
what happens if I start moving that energy in the people who come to see me into their areas of healthcare problems, someone with a bad knee,
Right.
or heart
any
disease,
other health issues. Yes.
mental
Yes.
issues. Will it work? And what I found was, boy, will it work. It's extremely powerful. And so you can use pranayama, and particularly the methods that have been scientifically studied. There are various schools of pranayama
Right.
that have been validated scientifically. And when you combine, you use these for health, it's an extremely important part. That's the third area. Then the fourth area, I'll say the words cognitive reprogramming.
Okay.
Now, the field of psychotherapy. Again, people have to get past stigmas regarding mental health. Psychotherapy, that's
Yeah.
not for me.
Right.
That's for someone who's crazy. They're
Yes.
mentally
Yes.
ill.
Yes.
Well, it is for someone who is mentally ill, but it's also for all of us.
Right.
You can't live any kind of life here and not get bumped and bruised mentally, emotionally along the way.
Yes.
And the stupid thing that we do is we just act tough and we suck it up, you know, and we don't let anyone know we're suffering.
Right.
And meanwhile, we're carrying an emotional wound that it's getting in the way of our health, it's getting in the way of our effectiveness at work, it's getting in the way of our marriages, relationships with children. And we say, there's nothing wrong with me. Well, we all have something wrong with us, but not to the level of someone who is mentally ill,
Right.
for example, like a schizophrenic. But we all have some things we need to heal. Now, the best type of psychotherapy that has been most scientifically researched over the last 30 years is cognitive therapy.
Right.
We found that our negative emotions, which were disabling us, actually came not from feeling itself, but from thought. That actually it is thought that is driving emotion and creating it. And if we have a recurrent negative emotion, depression, anxiety, these
Right.
are the two most frequent ones. If this is a chronic negative emotion that comes up repeatedly, we know by definition that our thinking process is distorted.
Right.
And so we go in and reprogram the thinking process. I have a 7-step method, and I have nice stories I can tell too along the way here.
Right.
But you reprogram the distortion in your thinking.
Right.
And if you follow the method, you have to identify what's wrong with your thought. I'll give you an example in
Yes,
a moment
please.
here. And then when you run the method over a period of simply 3 to 4 weeks,
Right.
a chronic negative emotion that was disabling you, that you were hiding from people, but it made you feel depressed, angry, anxious, fearful,
Right.
shameful, all of these powerful negative emotions, they go away, and they only come up then here and there when it's appropriate. So the 7-step method of cognitive reprogramming gets rid of those. Now, a simple example, there was a young medical doctor, researcher,
Right.
36 years old he was, at the National Institutes of Health in the United States, the top biomedical research facility that we have. And he came to me because he was depressed. I said, okay, fine. What is the thought that is driving your depression here? And he said, my thought is that I'm depressed. And I said, oh, and you got through medical school? I thought you were smarter than that. He said, all right, the reason I'm depressed, you see, I was new at the National Institutes of Health, and a powerful man blamed me for something and treated me badly, and it wasn't my fault.
Okay.
And I stood up to him. This was a very bad idea. My colleagues told me to stand up to him. I should not have. And he started clobbering my career, and my career is really in trouble. He says, that's why I'm depressed.
Right.
And I said, no, that's not why you're depressed, because what you've told me so far, your thinking is completely accurate.
Right.
So that's not the cause of your depression. So I pushed him. What else is the thought driving this? And he started to get angry with me after a while. I kept pushing him, and finally it hit him. And his head went into his hands, and he said, I have ruined my career just like my father ruined his career. And apparently at approximately the same age, his father had been a young attorney who was fast-tracking up through the top levels of IBM toward world leadership in that company. He got crossed by a powerful man wrongly, stood up to him, and within a year he had been thrown out of IBM. He went on to have a private practice in law that was reasonably successful, but it was not what he had wanted to do. And so his career was a failure in his own eyes. So I looked at my patient and I said, "Sir, there are individuals who can read the future, but you are not one of them. This is simply magical thinking that you're engaged in here. You do not know what's going to happen in your own future. You are not your father."
Right.
This began to lift the depression dramatically in him. He went and negotiated with this man who actually I had known because I grew up also at the National Institutes of Health. They worked out a peace.
Right.
They became friends. The man helped his career go forward, and he not only became a top researcher at the National Institutes of Health, but he received a prestigious appointment to Harvard Medical School.
Great.
And his career has gone great with no
Lovely.
depression.
Lovely. Dr. Levy, tell me one thing. You talk about negative thoughts, you talk about depression. What if someone is really, really negative or has really no reason to be depressive but is depressive? Are these certain kind of blockages in your body, or is it to do with your past life, or is it a chain of events which keep happening in your life which put you through a particular situation than what you are right now in?
All of these.
All of these.
All of these. There can be some biological components to this.
Okay.
Genetic and other biological factors. Some people try to argue for the physical as if it existed in and of itself. But what you find is that these are past life karmic tendencies that we loaded in when we were a fetus, in very early into the body so that we would face those karmic issues in this lifetime. So you will see things that are going on biologically. You will see things that are going on energetically also. Sometimes it's as simple as blockages that we get in certain chakras. You start to, for example, get to the third chakra here at the solar plexus. People will block up a lot of negative emotions and be unable to release them, and they have no idea why. And we can go in with a little bit of psychotherapy, but mostly I'll use pranayama at that point. And I'll teach the person how to do it on themselves internally, just as one might in meditation, and clear that blockage. Often there are love and heart-related issues with the heart chakra here. And there also, in addition to the energetic concerns that can be going on, in many cases, it might look to someone else as if the person has no reason to be depressed. Let's say they're very successful in their career. Everyone thinks they're wonderful, but they got a message growing up, maybe from their father, that they're not as good as their brother, they're not as smart, they're not as capable. They never won the approval and affection of their father.
I think, and over the years, it developed some kind of a low self-esteem about themselves.
Exactly.
Doctor, you had often mentioned the word affirmations. Now, a lot of people do not really know what affirmations are. First and foremost, I would really like you to tell us what really means, when you talk about affirmations. What are they, and how can one really use them on themselves? First and foremost, I would really like you to tell us what really means, when you talk about affirmations. What are they, and how can one really use them on themselves?
An affirmation is simply a short, positive, declarative statement in present tense.
An example
like,
being?
I feel great.
Okay.
Which could be used to reprogram the fact that you've been getting sick and feeling weak, or that you've been anxious or depressed. a good affirmation takes into account the individual.
Right.
What you want to do is look back over your own past and see the negative messages that you've taken to heart about yourself. So a standard example, one was that I ran into in the literature on the subject recently. Two sisters, older sister, younger sister, and the parents are, as they grow up, always telling people that they meet, oh, the older sister, she's smart.
Yes.
The younger sister,
is not that too smart? Or?
Well, they would say she's pretty.
Oh, okay.
So they took in a positive affirmation,
Right.
the older one saying, oh, I'm smart. The younger one saying, I'm pretty.
Right.
But they also took in a negative message, a negative affirmation, as it were. The older one saying, but I'm not pretty.
And the younger one says, maybe I'm not smart.
I'm not smart. Now,
Right.
a particular case that I'm aware of this, the older one went out and she became the top person in her field in the world for a number of years. And she bounced through 2 failed marriages and 2 failed long-term relationships. Okay. The younger one, who was not smart, well, actually, she tested out with a genius level IQ of 157. Believe you me, she was brilliant.
Brilliant.
She barely got through 2 years of post-secondary education, got no degree, and did not succeed, in her professional life. So these messages are not just somewhere in the background and not very relevant. They're powerful and relevant. We have to go and find the negative messages we've taken in about ourselves, and then create the opposite as the antidote, so that it will become true. Some people won't work with an affirmation at the beginning. The person who feels they are not worthy because they were always told that growing up, for example. Now they're repeating a message that says, I am worthy, or I am a good person, or people like me, something like that. They start with it and they want to stop. And they're saying, that's not true. It's just not how I feel. Well, that's why we're using it. Because it's going to become true. The person got brainwashed into the negative message, and then their behavior follows it. So maybe they don't succeed after that, and they say, see, I'm not smart.
Right.
Now we reprogram them by brainwashing them into the positive message, and that becomes true, and now they succeed much better. Now, where I've had to eat crow regarding affirmations is, I never found they did much good if a person just sat down and ran an affirmation for 5 or 10 minutes in themselves and then got up and went about their day, even if they did this every other day or so over time. But I was called up short on this by a monk who said, you really need to look at this again. And I, of course, listened. And what I did was I created Hypnotic Affirmation. These messages are stored in the subconscious mind. And between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is a gatekeeper. And I do want to get into the 4 levels of mind when we can. That gatekeeper keeps the message, the affirmation, from getting into the subconscious mind where the problem is located, that old negative message. So of course it doesn't get in deep enough and get the job done then. But when you go into a nice, deep hypnotic state, remember it's the positive hypnosis, controlled and directed by the patient, nothing to fear, it's very good. The gatekeeper drops down between conscious and subconscious mind. You have both now. And you reprogram out the old message from your subconscious mind.
Dr. Levy, we've spoken a lot in depth about affirmations and everything. There's another thing which I really want to discuss with you. There are a whole lot of books we were discussing, and one popular book being The Secret, right? And a lot of people read the book and tried to work on their techniques, but somehow could not really get any positive, feedback or an approach. It didn't make much of a difference. I really want to know what you think about it and what do you really feel?
Yes, that's a very good question. And in fact, my publisher is the same one who put out The Secret and put out my book afterward, Miraculous Health,
Right.
to be a bit of a corrective to some of the issues that came up from The Secret. So people would read The Secret.
Right.
And they'd say, all right, so all I have to do is think that I am well, and I am well. Okay, I think I'm well, I think I'm well. Hey, I'm not well.
Right.
Oh, if I think I'm rich, I'm rich. I think I'm rich, I think, hey, I'm not rich.
Rich.
And then
Right.
everyone got angry. Wait a
And
minute.
disappointed
Yes.
completely.
What are you
Yes.
talking about? Think it, and that's the way it is. Well, I'm glad the book came out because it got people focused on the power of the mind, but it did not go deep enough. You see,
Right.
we don't have one level to the mind, we have 4 levels to the mind. And we have to be thinking correctly at all 4 levels.
Yes.
The first level is the conscious mind, made up of our everyday thoughts and feelings as we move through the world. And we access each level of mind with a particular type of thinking. The type of thinking for conscious mind is logical, analytic reason.
Right.
The second level of mind is subconscious mind, and this is made up of all the impressions of experiences that we've had over the years, the things that just get locked back in the mind. Sometimes it's our deepest hopes and dreams that have
Right.
gotten buried back in there. We access this level of mind through symbolic thinking. Subconscious mind is much more powerful, about 3 times more powerful than conscious mind. Next level of mind behind subconscious mind is individual superconscious mind. Spiritual people call this soul consciousness.
Right.
It is vastly more powerful than subconscious mind. We access it through intuitive thinking. We are reading the energies, whether we know it or not, that are carrying information, those subatomic energies that create the whole world and all the objects in the world. We're reading the information in those energies.
Right.
So intuitive mind is like when we know something for sure, yet we have no logical way that we could have known that. And then universal superconscious mind, or divine consciousness, and this is divinity.
Right.
This is infinite. This is God, her, him itself.
Right.
And obviously there is no limit to that. We access that level of mind through meditative thought,
Okay.
where through the process we take the separation of subject, self and world, and action in between, and melt that into one, and we come into full divinity. Now, when we have a different type of stress which can get in the way in our life at each level of
Yes.
these, okay? And this can be very powerful. So at conscious mind, the level of stress is any time that there is a disparity between our present conditions and what our expectations are.
Yes.
Either we're expecting something more or we're expecting something less.
So tell me, Dr. Levy, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is it okay to expect?
No, yes, but you don't want to be attached to your expectations.
Right.
What I've seen happen in the West, people have the expectations to succeed more. And this is what decimated with stress-related disease the United States and Japan. India can avoid it through its philosophy of non-attachment and even-mindedness.
Right.
It is good to seek for more, but it is also stressful in seeking for more, coupled with the fear of failure if your sense of self-identity is attached to this activity. Oh, I'm a failure. That's very stressful and very harmful to your health.
Right.
If instead you view as part of your spiritual path of coming into wholeness and learning your lessons in life to go forward and succeed better in life,
Right.
but you're not attached to the outcomes, you're simply making the effort, then you are freed from conscious stress. And this is what India can avoid. These are basically all the unresolved conflicts in ourselves that we've carried over the years. It's even more harmful than the day-to-day living of stress that I just described in conscious mind. Then we get to soul consciousness. This is even more devastating. Whenever we are not living out our most noble hopes, dreams, and ambitions. There's the story of our life, and that's all the facts of our life, where we're born, the demographics, where we went to school, the job we do, and then there is the story behind the story. That's who we are trying to be within all of these facts in the history of our life. And we need to try to be the absolute best we can be, our most noble hopes, dreams, and ambitions. When we live those out, we do great. Health is great, prosperity is great, spiritual growth is great. But we get negative messages along the way that make us think either that it isn't out there to be gotten or that we're not worthy or capable of it. We have to let that go, dismiss that, heal ourselves from such messages, and go out and live our most noble destiny.
Dr. Levy, how can you shield yourself through these negative messages? As you said that you have to protect yourself when it comes to these negative messages. How can one really shield? You have to protect yourself when it comes to these negative messages. How can one really shield themselves?
Well, what you can do is you can heal from the effects of them. Hypnotic regression work, going back and releasing these messages. Hypnotic affirmation, reprogramming out the negative messages. Hypnotic meditation, going beyond the apparent reality of this world and more coming into God, that you look at this world like you can see right through it. You know it isn't real. Viveka is not only intelligence, but it's also that spiritual discrimination to tell what's real and what's not real. What is real is the divine and the unchanging. What is not real is the changing, this appearance. And then vairagya, the even-mindedness. Don't go chasing after phantoms. Remember, as you move through the world trying to do your best, it isn't ultimately real anyway. Just do it to please God and to grow, and seek then not to get wrapped up. All of these methods will shield you from these things. Now, the fourth level of stress from divine consciousness is absolutely the worst level of all. It's anything that separates us, it's soul ignorance. Anything that separates us from full merging in God. Think of it a moment. When you have that full merging in God, you are one with God, you are an eternal being. But when you don't have that, you are merely mortal and you will die. That's the worst level of stress. Now, as we think then, we have to learn to think at all four levels of mind. And when we do so, not just the conscious mind as talked about in The Secret, when we do so at all four levels, life becomes miraculous. You can not only heal yourself of anything, there is nothing that you can't heal yourself of, and even rapidly. Cancer, we get rid of all the time and quickly. Heart disease, you take all the big killers, we get rid of them. And you can do it on your own from my website with the downloads or from the book with the downloads.
Dr. Levy, as you said that there are a lot of diseases, a lot of ailments which can be cured, like cancer or heart problems, or even for that matter mental illness. If we keep all this aside for a while and we talk about prosperity, we talk about building on good relationships, what kind of healing process do you follow for all these things?
Thank you for asking that. When you learn how to think at all four levels of mind, you perceive that we're in one cosmic soup of energy. You might be a carrot, I might be a pea, but what matters is the soup. And you can move energy, prana, through this whole pranic field that is composing everything. So yes, you can use it for health, but you can just as well use it to improve relationships. You have a difficult spouse. You can, through the pranic healing, in the hypnotic state, send energy out through the third eye into that individual or into the relationship just by thinking of the relationship, and start to see real improvements. Anything you want to change out in the world. There is a particular protocol I have called the gear shift exercise that takes you through all 4 levels of mind,
Right.
which will change the outcomes of the situations around you in your life and will draw in completely different situations to you. So you're moving energy to replace perhaps a history of bad opportunities coming to you, and now you're drawing in wonderful opportunities or wonderful people to date or wonderful people to be friends with, when before it wasn't a question that you were behaving badly, it's just everything that came to you was poor and there wasn't much you could do with it.
Right.
Now you draw in totally different circumstances. And people should do this. We can create a heaven on earth here, and we should, and we will. So the prosperity side and well-being is extremely important, far beyond physical and mental, emotional health.
And Dr. Levy, coming back to the relationships and healing process, is there any small exercise, anything which you can probably tell our viewers that maybe, like you were talking about the third eye?
Yes.
Is there anything in specific you can tell our
Sure.
viewers that they should do to improve on their relationships or the state of life, or just elevate their mood a little bit?
Sure. Several things. First of all, at the level of behavior out in the world, do seek to be positive as much as you can.
Yes.
And there you may need to go back with the cognitive reprogramming and reprogram yourself out of negative moods into positive moods. You may need some hypnotic regression work or affirmation work to help in that.
Right.
But also realize that everyone and everything is made out of God. One of the things I like that people say in India, the guest is God.
Yes.
Well, that's true, but not only is the guest God, so is the spouse, the child, the boyfriend, the dog.
Yes.
And often I think familiarity breeds contempt, and we take a negative attitude towards someone who actually loves us. If we remind ourselves that that person is God, that helps a lot. Now, when people have their prayer altar at home, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way.
Right.
I think it's a good idea to put a picture of your spouse on that altar, that you remember this is an iktha for me. This is a divine incarnation for me to help bring me home. We are given love like that with each other for the purpose of coming into divinity. And so when we treat each other with divine respect, just like we would if Krishna walked in the room, things are bound to go better in a relationship. But then at the energy level, all those things will give you 40%, the 60% more, the 150% more effect. That's going to come when you're moving the prana out. And so what I would do, what I'd recommend is, again, listen to the hypnotic download. Just go into an easy hypnotic state. Very easy to do, obviously. You're in control the whole time.
Right.
Then meditate for a bit.
Meditate,
Just enough to get your mind reasonably calm. Then start sending positive energy toward the relationship.
Right.
Out through the third eye is
And can you also use affirmations in this case?
You can use affirmations in this case also, very definitely.
Right.
And you can use hypnotic imagery. You can start in your mind seeing or feeling the relationship improving and the two people getting
Positive
close.
approach towards the relationship,
Yes,
I feel.
and the energy restructures the other person, you, and the relationship.
Dr. Levy, what does positivity mean for you?
I'm a very simple person. I think what you think about and focus on is what you get more of.
Right.
So when you put your mind on the negative, oh, things are so bad, my life is so difficult, that may very well be true. I'm very sympathetic in those cases. But when you focus on that, you're going to get more of it, the law of attraction. When you focus on the positive, find within all the negative circumstances, find what is positive. Feel it, think about it, focus on it. The positive is going to draw more and more positive.
Thank you so much, Dr. Levy, for being here with us on this show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you. They say that behind every black cloud, there's a silver lining. You need to be positive in life. Every one of us can heal ourselves because the power lies within you. And that is the truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you, and namaskar.